Hi there. Thanks for joining me today as I make this high-class shepherd's pie. Now, this pie comes with a lot of controversy, believe it or not. Originally, the concept was called cottage pie. This was way back from the 1700s when the potato was being introduced as an edible crop for basically for poor people, and you could add a little bit of whatever roasted meat you might have left and add a few vegetables if you happen to have any, and it was a way to stretch the dollar and kind of have a nutritious meal for the cottage people, the poorer peasant people. So originally it was cottage pie, and then it became known as shepherd's pie because the Irish folks were using a lot of mutton or lamb. Um, Sometimes vegetarians call it gardener's pie because they use all veggies. So you know what? If you want to use lamb, use lamb. If you want to use beef, use beef. If you want to use turkey, use turkey. If you want to use something just vegetarian, you go for it. The concept of the pie or this casserole is what we're talking about. But done right, this can be a really, really fabulous, elegant meal as you see here. So here are the ingredients that we'll need, and I'm going to be making mine with lean ground beef. You can refer back to the ingredients at the end, or you can visit the website to print out a recipe to take to the grocery store with you. Let's get started. Now, what we're going to do first is get all of our mise en place, all of our vegetables chopped up first. We're going to chop our carrots, onions, and garlic, peel our potatoes and get them on in some salted water because things are going to come together quickly at the end. So get everything chopped and prepped that you can. Now brown your I want to say ground beef, but if you're using lamb, use lamb, whatever. Brown your ground beef in a skillet, breaking it up into small pieces. When it's about halfway cooked through, add your chopped onions. Cook them down for several minutes until they're soft and translucent. Now add your garlic. I didn't want to add the garlic first in that blazing hot skillet because I didn't want it to burn. Nobody likes burnt garlic. Now that the meat is cooked through, I'm going to add all my seasonings. I'm going to add kosher salt, black pepper, and just go ahead and start getting that meat seasoned. I'm going to add in my chopped carrots. The reason I'm adding them in after the meat is basically already cooked is I don't want them to cook down to mush. I want my carrots to retain some shape and some texture at the end. Now let's work on making that beautiful red wine gravy for this. So we're going to add in our red wine. Add whatever you like to drink. Some Worcestershire sauce, some tomato paste, some fresh thyme that's been stripped from the stems, finely chopped, and about a cup of beef stock. I'm also going to add a couple tablespoons of all-purpose flour because I want my sauce to be not drippy and not runny, but saucy. So the flour is going to help thicken it up. I'm going to bring all of this up to a boil so the flour can do its job as a thickener. And then I'm going to reduce it to a simmer for a few minutes. Once I reach that nice saucy point, I'm just going to turn off the heat and let it sit. If you didn't already do it, let's go ahead and get those potatoes boiling. Start your potatoes off in cold water to cover. Don't forget to add your salt because we really need to season each step of the process. I'm going to boil the potatoes until they're fork tender. This will probably take about 10 to 12 minutes. I do not want them mushy, okay? So just fork tender, and then we're going to drain them. After they're drained, just throw them back into the hot pot to hang out for a second. While they're hanging out, in a small saucepan, I'm going to melt my butter. I want my butter to get a little bit slightly browned because brown butter tastes really nutty and it's completely different and completely wonderful than brown butter. So if you can help it, don't skip the step of browning the butter. To the slightly browned butter, I'm going to add my half and half. I'm going to bring this mixture up to a simmer. We basically want to just get the cream nice and warm before we add it to our potatoes. Add the hot cream mixture to the potatoes, give them a nice stir, and get them seasoned up. I'm going to add kosher salt, black pepper, and garlic powder to my potatoes. However you prefer your mashed potatoes, you just do it like that. Once I just have them basically seasoned up and stirred, I'm going to add the potatoes to a ricer. Adding them to a ricer gives us a really light and fluffy texture. This is sort of like one of those Play-Doh things you play with when you're little and you squeeze it all out and you kind of have Play-Doh spaghetti. This is how it's going to end up looking, but our potatoes will be very, very light and fluffy after they go through the ricer. When we are just about ready to assemble our pie, at the very last minute, I'm going to add my frozen baby peas to my meat mixture. Stir them very gently. I did not want to cook my peas ahead of time because I don't want them turning starchy and I don't want them mushy. Now, once they're baked into the pie, the heat from the meat and cook them will be plenty enough to heat them, believe me. So remember, if you didn't already, get the oven heating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we're ready to assemble this masterpiece. Add your meat mixture into the bottom of your cooking dish. It can be a baker or a casserole dish or a pie pan or whatever you're using. After we put the meat mixture in, I'm going to put all those beautiful fluffy potatoes on the top as a top layer. Now I've added mine to a dessert decorator and I've piped them in little circles. Do you see how they have all these little ridges on them? All the little ridges will get like sort of brown and crusty, which I really like. If you don't have something like this or a piping bag, you can just drop the potatoes by the spoonful and then use a fork or something to make little ridges. But if you do have a decorator bag or a piping bag, think outside of the box, use it, have fun. To the top of my fluffy potatoes, I'm going to add a little fresh thyme, or you could add a little fresh chives to the top. They look really pretty and they will be very fragrant on top. Now, our casserole or our pie is ready for the oven. I'm going to bake this at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. For the last 15 minutes, I'm going to add some freshly shredded, Vermont white cheddar cheese. You could use yellow cheddar if you want, or even some Parmigiano Reggiano, but I'm using the white cheddar. And here we have our pie. It is ready to come out. The smell is fabulous, and the cheese on top gives us this beautiful sheen, but you can still see the fresh herbs and all those great little ridges on the top of our potatoes. All right, so get everything ready for your meal. Pour yourself a glass of wine and dip into this gorgeous pie, or this shepherd's pie, and you have beautiful, light, fluffy potatoes, the saltiness of that sharp cheese on top, a saucy red wine meat layer, excuse me, and those vegetables that are still a little al dente, that have that beautiful texture and shape. And I think you are going to change your mind about shepherd's pie. I hope you'll give this recipe a try, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.